Hello, welcome to Simple Life Philosophy, and I'm your host, Ed Raby. This is the channel where we follow my desire to find a simple life philosophy that is both simple to understand and simple to execute. You're following me on my journey as I journey towards a simpler, more productive life. As always, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that like button, comment below, share the video with friends that you think would be interested. I always appreciate all the efforts that you guys do to make this channel better. Today I'm going to continue on my overall meta-series of Stoic Viking meditations, and the kind of mini-series in the middle of that is the Nine Noble Virtues. And today I've hit virtue number 4, which is honor. Now, honor reads, as I will stand by my oaths and honor my ancestors by keeping my name pure among the kindred. Okay, so that has several aspects to it. Before I begin, though, I have to stress the difficulty of this virtue, both in anybody's life, but also for me personally, because there have been at least one occasion, if not two, where I pretty much threw away my honor. And paid some prices for it. Losing your honor always has a price tag. If there's one thing I've learned about life that is true, is that all of life is trade-offs. You're either going to trade your time for something, or you're going to trade something for your time, or you're going to trade a relationship for another relationship. There's very few transactions in life where everybody gains and you don't have to have a price. There's no such thing as a free lunch, is what Robert Heinlein would have said, and Tansafal is basically his watchword. And honor is very much about debt. It's very much about gaining favor and accruing debt. Probably some of my best quotes on honor are actually from Mark Twain, aka Samuel Clemens. For those of you, he wrote Huckleberry Finn, Connecticut Yankee, and King Arthur's Court, things like that. An old Southern gentleman came in with Haley's Comet and left with Haley's Comet, his own words. But some of the things he said about honor, and this is back in the day when honor was still something that people discussed in common conversation. For him, honor was, as he says, was more difficult than practice of the law, because the law will compromise, the law will back down, but there's no statute of limitations on honor, is what Samuel Clemens said, aka Mark Twain. It demands 100% on the dollar. A debt paid or a debt owed must be paid. There is no, you get out of jail free card with debts of honor. Something has to be paid. And when I look at the Nine Noble Virtues about honor, it's in there. I will stand by my oaths. An oath is a difficult thing in pagan philosophy, because an oath, and even in pagan spirituality, I choose to follow the Nine Noble Virtues because I think they give a good code overall for how to live your life, and honor is no exception, but honor is very difficult for me. And mostly because when I speak about it, I can only speak in terms of what it's like to think that honor doesn't have any meaning today. And I would say that a large portion of the problems that we have are people who have given their word or made an oath and then didn't keep it. Because what it has caused in our society is basically a very great deal of mistrust. Because the one thing that people gravitate to is trust. And honor is what builds trust. Yeah, because I've already talked about courage, and I've already talked about discipline, and I've talked about fidelity, and fidelity leads into honor. And the reason it's difficult for me is I have broken oaths. And going back to my statement about economics, there's always a trade-off. When you break an oath, there's a trade-off for that, and it's a heavy one. You pay a large personal price for breaking an oath, even if you don't make it to a god or whatever. On a personal, social level, breaking oaths is bad business. Okay, just look at marriage. I can speak from personal one. I broke the oath of my marriage. I'd said those oaths. I gave my word. Um, and I said it before a congregation of people. I don't really care about the God thing anymore. But looking at the oath I gave, I struggle with this because I feel that the oath of marriage from a Christian standpoint, the traditional oath of marriage from a Christian standpoint, is dishonorable in and of itself because it causes you to try to do multiple things at the same time that are conflictory. They conflict with each other. It is impossible in some cases to do what that oath is asking. I would never say marriage vows that were like that again. I would want marriage vows that are doable, that I can honor. And I think that's the real key with honor, first of all, is to make sure that when you give your oath, it's a doable oath. It's within your power. I think this is, when you look at the ancient medieval oaths, the lord of the realm would promise things to the people making an oath to him. Okay, most people look at oaths as like the knight kneels down and gives his oath to the Lord. But most people forget that the Lord also makes an oath to the knight. Okay, it's usually a two-way street. It's a deal, and once again, there's a debt to it. So if a knight, for instance, was fighting for his Lord and died in battle, the Lord was often responsible for his family, okay, to repay the debt of his service. There was a debt to that. And there's always a debt. And so we look at this and it's like, I will keep my oaths. Okay, it's hard. It's hard because an oath demands 100% commitment. It demands, there's no getting out of that debt. That debt is always there. And people say, well, this is stupid in the modern age. I disagree. I think the reason we have so many social problems is people give their word or give their oath. Or, would we argue that divorce, as high a rate it is not a social problem and causes other social problems? Yes, it does. Well, that's from the breaking of oaths. And we have gotten very flippant about that. People ask me how I feel about it now. One, I would, if I ever got married again, I would very carefully consider who I'm giving the oath to. Two, the nature of the oath would have to be something I can do and honor. And the woman that I would marry would also have to understand she's giving that same oath to me, and we have suddenly a debt to each other. And those debts, once discharged in life, actually bring about good things. When you break those oaths, that's when it becomes a problem. So I don't give oaths very lightly. In fact, I only have a couple oaths active right now, and then both to myself, and I won't go into them because they're kind of personal, so I'll leave that. Maybe someday I'll talk about them, but right now I'm just not going to do that. And I will honor my ancestors. Now, a lot of people have asked me recently, what's the point of all this if you're an atheist? And the hinge of that question is irritating to me. Because the assumption is that unless you live, as Christopher Hitchens said, a celestial North Korea where every move is watched by a mythical supernatural being, that somehow, ethically speaking, you wouldn't be accountable to anybody. And that's just a load of crap, okay? Because we are held accountable by our fellow human beings. Our society holds us accountable. If you break the law, somebody's going to hold you accountable, and it's not going to be God. It's going to be a judge. It's going to be a jury. It's going to be your peers. It's going to be the process of the law. It's going to be the police. Okay? And so the idea that we're not held accountable anyway, but the notion that somehow, because you're an atheist and you don't believe somebody's watching over your shoulder, and thus you'll be immoral is nonsense. I think Penn Teller, Penn and Teller, Penn Jillette. Okay, Penn Jillette said it best. Yeah, you're right. I can kill all the people I want. I can steal all I want, and I can rape all the women I want. And that number so far has been 0. I don't want to do any of those things because I can be a decent human being without somebody looking over my shoulder. And that's actually probably a truer test of being a decent human being, when you don't feel like anybody's watching and you still do the right thing. And I don't believe that there's any eternal reward to gain by doing the right thing. And I still do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. To me, that's far more moral. And so why does this matter? Because I'm trying to rebuild my honor. I don't feel right now that I have it. But for you that need encouragement in this, why should you honor your ancestors? I honor my father, who is my ancestor. I honor him by living some of the things he taught me. I honor my grandfather, who was a hardworking farmer, who lost a leg and an arm in a farming accident, but still continued to get up and go to work and farm and everything else. And I remember one time, he came in from the farm one day. We'd been working all day, and I was throwing hay bales all day as a teenage boy. And he came in, took off his leg, his prosthetic, and his stump was literally blood. And I didn't remember him saying a flippin' word or, complaining or anything. And that attitude I want to honor by being somewhat similar. If I learned any practical stoicism in life from my ancestor, it was from my grandfather, my mother's father. And I'm going to tell you, my other grandfather, who was adopted, who isn't really biologically my grandfather, I never really met my biological grandfather on my father's side. That man had honor too. He was a World War II vet. He had flown B-17s in World War II, dropped bombs on Germany and Russia, I guess, as well as the Russian army was advancing. He bombed the Germans behind them. There was all kinds of things that he did. He had 2 distinguished flying crosses and all this other stuff, but that's not why I honor him. It's how that after getting in a car accident that would eventually lead to his death, I never heard him complain about the pain. I never heard him complain once. And he kept his honor to the end. And I still remember that. I don't know if he ever realized the influence he had on a 9-year-old boy, but who was his grandson, based on the law, who bore his name because his name was Edward too. And honoring your ancestors, honoring the past. I think people who have a deep understanding of history and try to honor it do very, very well. People that dismiss history as evil or whatever, there's tons of examples in your ancestors of people who were bold, people who were courageous, people who were disciplined, people who were self-reliant, focused on the truth, that lived all these virtues. And honor says, I honor them by trying to listen to their lessons and trying to implement what they learned and their wisdom that they came about. I honor that by trying to follow it. Okay? Now, things have changed, and I get that. But I don't think honor is the missing virtue in America. I just don't see a lot of it where people just keep their word to keep their word. Okay, where they make an oath and they keep it. And they respect people that have come before. I think a lot of the reasons why young people don't respect our country or anything is they've been told a bunch of the crap of the history of America. But is it fair when you also haven't learned the good things that America has done over the years? I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's a fair view of history of the American nation. And sure, I want to know what all the minorities did in fighting that so that their place isn't lost, okay? Because their place exists as Americans too. And this is the kind of thing that honoring our ancestors, Memorial Day is coming up soon. Sometime around Father's Day, me and my mother will make the annual pilgrimage down to my dad's grave. It's about an hour drive away. And I'll clean off the gravestone and I will put flowers there. Me and Mom will probably plant something that hopefully like a perennial that come up every year. Why do we do that? Why do I do that? I mean, I believe my dad is dead and gone and I'll never see him again. I do that because I honor his memory and I honor what he taught me. And it's my way of focusing once again on that. Keeping our name pure among the kindred. Now, the kindred I've mentioned is your community, your extended family, your overall arching. And this is the part where I'm trying to rebuild. I'm trying to rebuild my purity among the kindred. because I've had some problems there in the past, about 5 years ago, 6 years ago now, I guess. Oh, Jesus, 7 years ago, I don't know, just a bunch of years. And I'm trying to be a person of my oath that honors my ancestors and keeps my name pure. That I am a good person, that will do good things if you ask me, okay? Try to be nice to everybody. Try not to treat anybody with contempt. Just try to live an honorable life. That's where I'm at. And if I can offer any encouragement to you in this video series, if you're struggling with the idea of honor and why we even have to do it, I want to ask you a question. Look around you and see all the problems that you see and ask yourself a question. Could honor fix that? And I'm going to tell you 9 times out of 10, yes. Yes, it could. It could fix that. It could, it could do that. As we continue through the 9 noble virtues, I have to pause here with honor because we're about to go into virtues that have a little bit more practical bent. And up till now, we've done courage, discipline, doing the right thing. All of the fidelity, the courage, the discipline, and honor all kind of focus together. And then the rest of the virtues are kind of this practical outplay of them. They all kind of mesh together. And I just want to pause to mention that because honor kind of is the shift. Because the last thing about honor you have to remember is it's the theory that turns into action. You can't just sit on honor and hope it goes away. You have to act. If you owe a debt to somebody, you have to pay it. I think it's interesting that in Game of Thrones, for instance, most people consider the Lannisters to be kind of crap. But to be honest, one of them, and actually probably 2 of them, they lived true to their unwritten code. A Lannister always pays his debts. And like it or not, that's actually one of the redeeming factors of that family, as a few of them actually tried to do that. Learn to pay your debts. Don't be afraid of your oaths. Don't be afraid to follow your ancestors. Don't be afraid to keep your name pure. Because long term, that will be of more benefit. And I speak as somebody who has lost one's honor and is trying to regain it. It's difficult. It doesn't settle for anything less than 100%. And it honors the trade-offs that are incorporated. So make sure you're keeping your honor. Well, that's all it for me today. This has been Simple Life Philosophy, and I've been your host, Ed Raby. I want to thank you all for stopping by. Be sure to like the video, comment, share it. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, do so. I would appreciate it. Hit your notification bell so you can get new content as it is released. And as always, I encourage you to follow your own simple life philosophy. And today I encourage you to live in your honor. And hopefully I'll see you next time, and you have a great day.